Hello, welcome to the Reasonably Effective podcast, brought to you by myself, Uncommon Fossil, and by 10 Types. Why don't you say hello?
Yep. Hello, everyone.
And I think this is episode 42, although it's coming out before episode 41, I think, but whatever. What today's episode is on Paradox Rift, which is coming out. The pre-releases have happened, but it doesn't come to live till later this week in about 4 or 5 days. Which I'll have it then. So we want to talk about Paradox Rift before it comes out. So that's why we want to release it right away and not hold on to it. Anything you want to add about that?
I'll say I've actually been playing. So I've tested some Paradox Surf stuff within these past few weeks, and so I got a little bit of a better understanding of the cards. Obviously, some of the stuff is kind of obvious based on like what they do, what they'll synergize with, but
Hmm.
then getting some like hands-on experience is kind of useful as well. So, but Uncommon Fossil, you've not done any of that, right?
Correct. I have not. It's just hearing people discuss it and looking at the cards myself, as well as looking at what the decks are going to be on the live battle passes. That's been released. So why don't we start off with those cards in those decks as a good starting point? Because I think there's some good cards anyway, and we're all going to have access to those from day one. So the first one is Roaring Moon EX. This is on, I believe, the basic battle pass, and it's an ancient type, right? Is it? I don't know. Is it a type, by the way, or is it just an? Do you
It's not like
know?
a it's like a
It's
thing. It's an attribute, I
so we
guess.
should just call it an
But
ancient Pokemon or an ancient card.
yeah, sorry, I have a quick question. Are there
Yes.
cards highlighted here for you?
Yes. Are they on your
What
site
are
too?
why are they highlighted? Yeah.
Yeah, so what it is on the website they give each of the decks on the basic and premium battle pass. Then below the deck list they give the additional cards you get as you go up the battle pass, like tier 16, they tell you, or tier 14. And then the highlighted cards are ones they are suggesting to remove to make space for the new cards.
Have they done that before or
They did it before in the text where they said remove the highlighted cards, but the cards weren't actually highlighted.
okay.
So this
I
time
guess they're getting better.
they are, and some of it is like there's removing 4 Dark Patch from this deck, right? As we get into it, it's a Dark Pokemon. It needs a bunch of energy. You got to play Dark Patch. I was like, what's going on with that? But then what they're doing later on is you get some like
Oh.
shiny Dark Patches. So they're like, you got to play those. But besides that, um, anyway, so all right, so the Roaring Moon EX, very good card. It's one I definitely want to play, and I imagine most people do as well. 230 HP basic, and that extra 10 HP is quite nice, right? 220 is the kind of regular number. Ancient type and 2 attacks here. Frenzied Gouging does for 3 energy, dark, colorless. The deck probably would just play a basic dark energy, I assume. It's an interesting attack. You knock out your opponent's active Pokemon, so one shot anything. If your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out this way, this Pokemon does 200 damage to itself. So, ouch, you go down to 30 HP, which is rough. But obviously, there's times you want to do that, right? And particularly if you're doing it to win the game. And obviously, you can one shot a Charizard EX. That's a problem. So even trading 2 prize for 2 prize for something that's at a high HP, you might even take it. And then the second attack, the more normal one for 3 energy, once again, Calamity Storm, 100 HP plus 120 more to get to 220 if there's a stadium in play and you choose to discard. I believe you have the option not to discard the stadium. And of course, if there is no stadium in play, then you can only do the 100. So, two interesting attacks. I'm concerned with Calamity Storm. Obviously, you're not always going to have a stadium in play unless you're really filling your deck with stadiums, then you lose consistency. So if you're only doing 100 half the time, that might not be good enough. What do you think about it?
Um yeah, I feel like both of the attacks are good. Obviously they can hit hard. Um
Hmm.
and so you always have access. I mean you can always use the first attack. You might die if you
Yes.
use the first attack. You can always use it.
Hmm.
And the second attack is generally I feel like you want to use it when you have the stadium in play and when it does enough damage.
Right.
Although using Frenzy Gouging is not a bad option here. I think it's not. Some people are talking about playing it in like a turbo style Roaring Moon deck, which
Hmm.
is something. But I don't know if it's good. But then it is you can do that though. And then you can get KOs. You can definitely get a KO turn one going second. Because you
Yeah.
have obviously Dark Patch and then Professor Sada's Vitality, which is let me pull this up. But you accelerate basic energy from Disco Pal to 2 of your ancient Pokemon. So it's kind of like Welder, and then you draw 3, and then so it's kind of like
Right.
Welder. It's only 1 energy to 1 Pokemon, so you're still into Dark Patch, but it's certainly very doable. Giving you some fast power. And then you don't need, like, I feel like 5 stadiums is probably enough. The list plays 4,
I
but I feel like
think
if you have 5, you generally have enough to discard. And then I feel like it's a decent card. Strangely, they play Brute Bonnet, which poisons you. Um,
right.
the tool, yeah,
If it
there's
has
the tool
ancient
that
booster capsule attached, but then which it's let's see, it starts with 2 copies. I don't know if it gives you more
sorry,
power.
which card? If Brute Bonnet does,
Yeah, Brute Bonnet has to. I think is that it has to have that tool attached, right?
yeah.
Um, and then but then if it does make you immune to being poisoned, also ancient booster energy capsule, correct?
Yeah, so you can put that on like a Roaring Moon or send up your own Brute Bonnet and then
Right.
switch it out, which
R-
is okay. But if you poison yourself and then your opponent like does 10, then you just die, which is kind of not good. But overall, I think it's a very strong card. But there's two ways to play it. The other way is with Darkrai V-Star,
Mm-hmm.
which is like I think it's a classic deck, not a great performing deck historically,
Right.
because it just like doesn't hit super hard,
Yep.
but it's like an Engram style deck, and I think Wrong Moon's okay as maybe a one of, but I don't feel like it's necessarily a great addition to that deck.
What they do give in the cards you unlock as you move the battle pass, you get a 2/2 Darkrai V Star. So they're planning on you putting that in as you move up, and I do, that does make the deck better and gives another attacking option, right? Because like Roaring Moon, like you don't want to attack into your opponent's Cramorant, right? With the first attack to knock it out, obviously. And then you also don't want to have to use the second attack if you don't have a stadium play, because then you don't knock out the Cramorant. And so you need
Yeah,
some
you
other
can use Brute
option.
Bonnet to get the KO because you do
The poison.
the poison. Sorry, I don't know. I don't hate Roaring Moon. I feel like I don't know. I don't feel like Darkrai is just that good. Um, its ability is good, but
Mm-hmm.
its attacks only okay. And I don't know if it necessarily has synergy with Roaring Moon. So overall, I think Roaring Moon is a decent card.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't think it's the strongest. And I don't think with Darkrai is the best. I think you want to play it's like a Turbo Roaring Moon.
I think that's probably true. I think you probably just want to be attacking with Roaring Moon after Roaring Moon. It's a basic. You have the energy acceleration with your supporter and with your dark patch, and you just got to navigate it that way. Um, and the poison options, kind of, it's a bit odd on the deck, like you said. I don't love that. That's one of the new cards. Um, but look, I'm glad they're giving it to us because it's one of probably 3 attacking Pokemon in the set that are of top interest to me. I think, in a general interest. So it's
I guess I think there are some others. Um,
yeah,
I don't know if it. So I did a tier like a top 10, and this wasn't in the top 3. I
okay,
don't remember if it was the top 3 attackers. I don't know. It's a good card though. Um, strangely though, I don't know why they gave you Radiant Greninja. Normally I'd be like, yo, that's cool because Radiant Greninja is good.
yeah.
Um, but you got Radiant Greninja for free, right? I'm pretty sure you
It's
do.
in one of the starter decks, I do believe,
Yeah, which is
right
kind of
now.
like silly because Radiant Greninja isn't even good. I mean, it's okay. It's decent in this deck. It might be the best Radiant, but Radiant
Right.
Hisuian Sneasler makes more sense. This is their chance to give it out, and they're not doing that. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Radiant Greninja gets the energy in the discard for the dark patch, right? That's the logic.
Yeah, I guess it's good,
And
but like,
it's the only engine the deck has, right? Oh no, they give you
no, they
two
do a
the barrel.
barrel,
So
and
okay.
then they eventually give you a Mew EX and a Squawkabilly.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a number of things, but I don't know. Radiant Greninja is good, I suppose, but
But
um,
yeah, I mean, but I agree that since they already have given that out in a starter deck, give the Hisuian Sneasler instead. Get people a different card. But that's really the only of the new cards in that deck. Well, no,
there's one more new card.
well,
Well,
Professor
there's a few.
Sada's Vitality you mentioned, right, which is super good. Um,
Yeah, there's the Ancient Booster Energy Capsule.
yes.
And then there's my number one trainer from the set. So spoilers for those of you who haven't seen that, but I imagine most of you have seen that. That would be Earthen Vessel. Earthen Vessel is a very good item. It is an ancient card, but that doesn't really matter. But it lets you discard a card from your hand to search for 2 basic energy,
Yes.
which is nice. It is another way to get cards in the discard, and obviously it searches out energy as well. So that's a good card.
Yeah, this is a good card for a lot of decks too. Besides, obviously, it's an ancient one, but it's obviously not necessary. Like for was the Professor Sada card, it only accelerates to ancient Pokemon, right? But this will go just gets 2 basic energy of any type, so very useful. Right now, we don't have searching for multiple energies generally, so a very good card. And there's not a lot of discard in the game either, right? Especially an item discard, right? There's Ultra Ball and there's not much else, right? For an item
Yeah.
that can
So
discard. So
yeah.
so it'll go in decks for that too, right? Because there are decks that like to discard. So it's a good card for sure. So this was your number one trainer from the set.
Yeah, I think it's very good. It's certainly debatable which is the best, but I think it has to be up there.
Yeah.
Um, it's good in Chun Pao, which I think we need to talk about later as well, but
Hmm.
not just yet. Because the next one up, I think we can move on to what's it? Is it
Yeah.
Goldengo? Yeah, it's
So
Goldengo. So you want to
Goldango
read that one?
EX. Yeah. So this is another good attacker. This one's not an ancient or future Pokemon. I'm glad they gave us one of at least one ancient Pokemon though for free. So Goldango EX. This one's a stage one, 260 HP metal Pokemon. There's not been a lot of metal in the game that's been good. Really, I would say, right? We had the Dialga V Star, but that was always a very high roll deck, right? When it worked, it was awesome, but it took a lot of work. So having a good metal attacker will be a plus. The attack on it is Make It Rain for 1 metal energy. You discard any number of basic energy cards from your hand. It does 50 damage for each card you discarded this way. So you don't have to have them in play. You just need to get them into your hand, which is definitely better, right? You get 60 per discarded in play from the Chen Pao, but this is better. It's a lot like the old Blacephalon, right? The single prize, but now it's a stage one. So it's a single energy attack, terrific. Just get up the evolution. So a very nice attacking option. And then coin bonus ability. Once during your turn, you may draw a card. If it's in the active spot, you draw 2 cards. So super nice too. It gives you a little engine too. So you could even just have as an engine. It attacks for 1 metal energy, so it doesn't even have to be the main attacker. Even it doesn't have to be in a metal deck per se. Just have a few metal energies, or even a few metal energies, and you can attack with this, right? Or luminous, right? That's not restricted to rule box, right? Just has to be the only special energy. So
Yeah. You could do Luminous. You can't discard Luminous with the attack. Um,
no, but you're
but
discarding
like
from hand anyway. So if it's attached to it, that's okay.
yeah, but if you play like 4 Luminous, you can't discard the extras. But
Correct.
yeah, not a huge deal. Um, I will say I feel like it's called coin bonus for a reason. It's just a bonus. It shouldn't be. You shouldn't rely on that draw completely, as it's not amazing. It's not bad, but it's only okay. I did play against this deck. It is good. I think it's very strong and can pretty much always get the kill. I'll tell you the deck I
Okay.
was playing. I believe when I was playing with this, I was playing for the most part, a Lost Zone deck with future cards, which I'll talk about when we get to those.
Okay.
And so I obviously had lower HP, so Goldango was very easily able to one-shot everything. In
So
fact,
right. So two, three
no,
energies, and they blow up whatever you had.
yeah.
Yep.
So that meant they didn't have to work very much, but the deck's also very straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say compared to Chin Pao, where you have just the way to do big damage to the active. We don't have too much
Right.
versatility, although Chimpow does have some. And
But
then you also have
right. I mean, this should be easier to set up than Chen Pao. It's a stage one. You don't need the stage two Baxcalibur, right? And you don't have to. So you don't have to
yeah.
accelerate them. So I think it will flow better.
Yeah, that being said, well, I mean the Max Caliber is a stage 2, but you only need to get set up one Max Caliber and then the rest of your attacker is just like a basic versus
Correct.
Goldango, you're setting up a new stage 1 each turn.
Yes.
But yeah, I would say Goldango is a bit more straightforward. And then you can also pair it with a new, or with not the new, a relatively new Scizor from Obsidian Flames,
Hmm.
which does, it's kind of like Flapple, where it does more for each Pokemon and play with an ability of your opponents. It does 10 plus 50 more, so for one
Yeah.
metal, which is 10 more than Flapple, which is decent, and some people are liking that. which gives the deck a bit more depth as it's a single prizer. But overall, I'd say um, the deck's pretty straightforward. Also, I don't know why there's like psychic stuff in this stack. It's kind of strange. Oh, I guess you
Yeah,
can fog crystal for well, I guess
some
yeah, fog crystal is
energies.
interesting. You can get energy, and you can get the Gimmighoul, which evolves into Goldango, is psychic as well, which is interesting. Um,
Okay,
I don't know if that's good or not though.
so they play the yeah, it's Curly on Ralts and but none of the stage twos. But maybe I don't know if
Oh,
they.
yeah, yeah, it does. It has Gallade.
Oh, okay.
It's above it. It's going
Oh,
from
it's the
the highest
sequences.
evolution to the lowest,
Okay, so it's
which is
got
a
the
little
Gallade too.
strange.
Okay, but so you need the psychic to attack with that. Um, anyway, so okay, I mean, and obviously, look, you can, it's flexible, right? Because it only takes one to attack and it discards anything. So I mean, look, again, I'm glad they gave this out because this is one I definitely wanted to get my hands on and want to try out. I played Blacephalon back in the past. Now, was that a double? Was that a 2 energy attack cost? I'm trying to remember, or one.
Baby Blacephalon?
Yeah.
That
Was it
was
one?
3.
It was three. Okay, so three. There was
Because you
always
had to welder
you
to it
had
and
to welder to.
attach.
That's right, welder to pay the attack. So which was obviously high rolly there. But there were a lot more tools to get the fire energy. But here it's any type of energy. So I do like I think it could be a good deck. It will be linear. You're right in what it does, but you can put it into other decks too. It's a stage one, so it's questionable. But with the ability, it kind of helps offset having it as a secondary attacker slash slight draw engine, although Path shuts it off too. So it's vulnerable to that. But I'm looking forward to trying it, I gotta say, and I do think I want to check it into some other decks probably as well. And it opens up the possibility of a card which I'm pretty sure you're not going to want to discuss, but I'll just mention it here, and that is Tulip, the supporter, which grabs Psychic. Actually, you probably play it in this if you're playing with the Curly engine, right? It gets you up. You
Maybe.
might. It's certainly a thought. You got to say. For Psychic decks, it's better than Clara, which is a solid card, right? You put any comp
Which
four.
also will be rotating soon, because it's not that much better than Clara. It
No.
exclusively
At
Psychic
first, I
decks.
thought it wasn't psychic only, in which case it was just better,
Oh
massively
yeah,
better.
no, it's not. It's Nessa for the it's Nessa. So for any combination of psychic Pokemon or basic psychic energies from
Right.
discard into your hand as a supporter, which
Hmm.
is good.
Yeah.
It's not great though.
No. But in a deck like this, that if you have a deck with, especially a deck that needs to discard psychic energy, right? And if you have some psychic Pokemon, it could go in this deck, is what I'll say.
Yeah.
It's not insane. And actually they give you two in the upgraded as it upgrades so they're thinking it has some value. Yeah, but again, it's limited to psychic. But look, I think Goldangos will be fun to try out. It's probably not going to be the BDIF though. And right, I mean, you want to play it at some
Uh,
point, correct?
yeah. I think it's a very big hitter.
Yes.
I think if you can either one play the deck very straightforward and just like one shot everything,
Mm-hmm.
then be vulnerable to just things that can like outmaneuver you because they have like single prizes and stuff like that. Or you
Right.
can play it with a bit more versatility. In which case you're gonna have obviously some consistency issues.
Yep.
And I think either way is fine. And I think it's a very good card. It's one of the stronger attackers. I mean, it's the strongest just attacker in the set in terms of just like power.
It's the
I mean,
biggest.
obviously,
Hmm.
Roaring Moon one shots everything as well, but that's
Right.
3 energy, so I feel like this is a little easier to set up.
Right. And this is not put damaging itself down to 30, right? So,
Yeah, that
which
is
which
true as
which
well.
is a which is obviously a big negative. So, um, yeah. So this is the biggest attacker, right, in and of itself in the set. So it's nice that they gave it to us. I do think it's probably not as good as Roaring Moon. They gave us the better of the two options in the basic battle pass again, though.
Yeah, no, I think Golding is better than Roaring Moon.
Okay.
Um,
It could be. It could be.
and they're both decent. I don't think these are necessary. I don't think these are the best cards in the set. I think Goldengo's up there. I don't think Roaring Moon's the best, although I think it's close.
Hmm.
But I think now is time we talk about some
Yes.
breaking news,
Okay.
which is a card was banned and expanded.
Yes.
That card is Scoop Up Net. Well, okay, it was banned in Japan and expanded.
Right. Where I
This
believe
is
they do play expanded tournaments out, whereas like the rest of the world, expanded has been dropped essentially as an official format.
Yeah. So will this come to the internationally, including America and just the rest of the world? Um, Probably, but I don't know. So Scoop of Net, if you don't know, it returns a Pokemon that isn't a V or GX from play into your hand, and you discard the attached cards.
Yes.
It's very good because it works with EXs, both lowercase and
Hmm.
capital EXs. So,
Right. Well, that's why it's
but
unfair, right? That's why it's been banned. It was very good even without that, just scooping up basics with non-rule box.
single
But
prize. Yeah, I
right,
can
right.
scoop of
But the rule
evolutions as
box
well.
is a problem.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd say like Radiance was a problem.
That's
Although it
true.
was good. But yeah, I'd say certainly like the EXs, it caused Shaman EX to become banned. Uh,
Right.
Arguably it didn't have to be. I don't know. It was very good. I personally like Shaman that seemed fun. I mean, expands is kind of a stupid format. So you need to, if you don't want it to be a stupid format, you need to ban like 50 cards probably. So I feel like instead you should kind of embrace it being a stupid format. But anyway,
Look,
so Shaman was banned.
yeah. I mean, personally, I understand. I guess it's not a surprise it was banned. Knew it would be a problem with the current EXs, I think, which is why the timing was it. The new X's didn't come out until Scoop Up Net rotated, so they were aware of that. Why they waited till now, I don't know if there was a particular card in Paradox Rift.
There is, which we'll
Oh,
get
oh
to.
yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. So, um,
It's
but
obviously Roaring Moon. No.
exactly.
Although it would be good with Roaring Moon. You
Yes,
should
if
just
they
like
don't
crank it
knock
up,
it
like
out,
heal 200.
yes, assuming your opponent doesn't knock it out when it has 30 HP, you'd
It's
love to
rare.
scoop it up. And you have to have 3 energy at that point. So if they didn't knock it out, I think you just attack again and be happy about it. But um,
Yeah. I mean, you would die. But
you would. But I mean, personally, I wish they had a route at scoop up net, and that's still my position, just to make it to be it can't pick up any rule box Pokemon. When I agree, the Radiants aren't a problem per se, but that's what they've done with the new phrasing, right? And I wish they had done that with scoop up net, because then you could have kept Shaman in expanded, right? I think without being able to scoop it up multiple times in a turn, that's okay. And again, I think being able to scoop up things like Drizziles back in the day and stuff was very good, but it wasn't busted. So I think I wish they would kind of they print a new scoop up net, right, and then just errata this so it becomes what the new one is.
yeah. But anyway, so the card, do you know what the card is? You said you did. What is the card?
It is, as I look at it here, I have it on my. I'm trying to remember now. It's the one that makes your opponent. It puts on it puts damage counters, and I can't remember the name of it right now.
Yes, Iron
So,
Valiant EX.
oh
So
yes, there I have the list, which is a future Pokemon, correct?
yeah.
Right.
So its ability Tachyon Bits, I guess is the name. Is once during your turn when this Pokemon moves to the bench to the active, you may put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon, which is very good. This is the deck. This is the main future Pokemon I was playing in the Lost Zone deck, and the best one. I put a few others in, but
Okay.
I never like used them. So yeah, it does 200 for 3 as well. I can attack next turn, but we'll get to that. But anyway, yeah, you can ping 2 when you swing it in, allowing you to donk your opponent. You just scoop up net a bunch. So you could play 4 Iron Valiant, scoop them up 4
Right.
times. So that's going to be um, 160 damage. And then you can also use Galarian Zigzagoon. You have scoop
Right.
up Cyclone. No, I mean you do have super scoop Cyclone, but you have scoop up or super scoop up, which is a coin flip. Pretty much you can just win the game turn 1. If you played expanded, um, on PTGO,
Mm-hmm.
Donk was a deck, and it kind of sucked to play
Yeah.
against.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
this is an upgrade to the deck.
right. I mean, obviously, it's not going to donk to that level. Obviously, if Scoop Up Net wasn't standard with this, it would make things very not fun. I would say because I don't, donk is an outside thing maybe, but donk is a regular strategy, and people trying to just grind the ladder with it makes life unfun. Look, it places 2 damage counters. That's nice, and it can go on the active as well or the bench, which is good because right now we can hit the bench, not the active so much, right? So that's a plus. The attack certainly leaves me underwhelmed, though. So perhaps you're going to sell me on why the attack is good, and
Well, it's
the future package is good too, right? The future package is better than the ancient package, right? I think
I don't know. The supporter isn't as good. I mean,
that's
the
true.
supporter's not
It's
like
got the better tool, right?
future. Yeah, the tool's better. So the tool gives free retreat and 20 more damage. So this is buffed up to 220, which is the amount of damage that
That you need.
they're going to be hitting with like Rhydon, which is good.
Yes.
So yeah, and then I mean it's just good. So you can pair it with. I'm looking for a list. There's a deck I believe I saw it on Omnipoke. Maybe it was anyway. So it's
Hmm.
you do a bunch of Iron Valiant pings, and then you hit ping with, and then you go in with Medicham V, and
Yeah.
you kind of just win. Like that's you like
Well,
you can win turn one going first if they just start like a Ralt, but then you can also win turn one going second. Well, technically it would be turn two because you like ping and do a bunch, and then you go ahead
now,
and
okay, go ahead.
and then you Medicham, and then you ping a bunch more again. Obviously, you need a lot of switch, but
Right now, the Medicham is only if you go second, right? Can you donk going first, right? Because that's always problematic, right? And we may
I
have
mean
to,
you can. Well, it's not easy, and if you,
like,
so
how hard
this
is
is
it? I'm trying to think because it has to
it's not
move
that
to the active, right? If
well.
it's
Just yeah, it just
well,
depends what your
but
opponent
putting one in the
has.
starting place doesn't do anything to you. So, so you can hit obviously. You can kind of do two of them. How do you get a third? Like I attach a gen
You just
energy that gives
play
me
a
one
bunch
in
of
the
switch.
active. Oh, that's true. You can get a bunch of switch. Now, if you're going for that, then you're playing donk. Once you toss in a lot of switch cards, you're probably playing a donk deck or a sketchy deck, which I've been doing
Yeah, there's
some
just
of.
I'm looking at Celios. Well, there's a deck. Then you can later set up Laser Blade, which does 200, but buff that up to 220, and
Hmm.
that's not a bad attack by any means. Especially when you add on this attack and bit. So now you're essentially hitting 240, and
Yeah.
that's very respectable. That's why I put it in my Lost Zone list. Because now it's essentially a Pokemon that's hitting 220 or 240 for three.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the V's. I never really liked the V's in the Lost on Neck though, just because I
Having
don't
the
know. I just
multi-prize, which
didn't.
you don't like, but this one's okay as an EX.
Yeah, I don't know. I like it more. It gives you more versatility because you can like ping as well, and that's a big part of the Lost Zone idea. But then it provides two roles. I also paired it with Iron Jugulus and Iron Bundle. Iron Bundle. I can also. Are you looking at Justin Basil's website? You
I
are,
am.
right?
So I'm typing.
Yeah.
I
So
have
Iron Bundle
iron
is not
in.
there.
Oh, it's not, but it's a new card.
Yeah. I'm looking at the proxies. It's in like the visual. It's on the
Okay, I'm on
list,
the
but it's
translation.
not
So
proxy.
Iron Bundle. Okay, Iron Bundle's not in the proxies. That's a future card again. If it's on your bench, you may switch your opponent's active to the bench. Okay.
And you discard it, which is okay. It's like Fion. But then
Yeah.
there's also
Your opponent chooses.
yeah,
Okay.
and then you have an attack that stops evolutions from attacking. I thought
Hmm.
it would be useful. Ended up not being useful. It depends on the matchup. I think
Right.
it could be useful against Charizard EX, but that's only one deck. And then also I had Iron Jugulus, which is interesting because it like does a bunch of bench damage. We've talked about it before, and it's not that
Hmm.
good, but it's a decent single prizer. I think I ended up cutting both of those from my list though. So
Okay. Oh yeah, Homecoming
yeah,
Headbutt does 50 to 3 if they have damage counters. Obviously, that's a lot of damage counters on three Pokemon is not easy in general, for one thing.
yeah.
And then is 50 going to get you knockouts or not? Because you can't just keep doing this a lot of turns, probably.
I mean, it's a
It's a
decent
single
amount of
prizer, so I
damage.
guess you could.
It's like it's a good chunk of damage. I think it's worth because you look at like Sableye and you look at Radiant Greninja, they're both good attackers. This
Yeah.
falls kind of somewhere in between them, where it hits an in between amount of damage,
Hmm.
but also is able to go to some targets, but you can't mix it up quite as much as Sableye. But overall, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think, but I never used it. I was
Yeah.
playing, and I think I lost zoned it every game. So
Well, it opens up
yeah.
interesting options, but but you're probably going to have a deck focused on it. I'm not sure how if it's going to work as a tech in a deck, which is what you were doing kind of with Lost Zone.
Yeah, and so I had Hawlucha, but I only had one Hawlucha. So if you played a Hawlucha and then you pinged with Iron Valiant, you could go in there. And you can also set up with Sableye.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Its other attacks also all right. Hitting if you have the tool, the Future Booster Energy Capsule, you hit 170 for 3, which is good. But I don't know. So then you have, let's see, what should we talk about Iron Hands next? Do you think that's
I
the
think, yeah, I think we'll stick with the iron theme too, right? And
yeah the futures? Well,
yeah,
sure. I'll start with Iron.
they are okay.
Um,
Are they all okay? I haven't gone through it, and that okay. It seemed like they were right. And again, and all the future and the ancient are all basic Pokemon. Is that correct? Am I?
yes.
I'm okay. I'm just good. So Iron Hands EX future Pokemon. It has 2 attacks. It's Lightning type. 230 HP. So we see this creep from 220 up to 230 on more Pokemon too. So that
I don't know
on
about
some of
that.
them, right? Well, on this one, some of them, right? Which we'll see some
Like
play.
the yeah. Well, we are also talking about the Roaring
Roaring
Moon,
Moon,
but
right? Which
that
we'll
like
see
damages
play.
itself by 200. So I wouldn't really say it's power. Like Zamazenta had 230.
No, it's not
Um,
power creep, but what
you're saying it was a creep.
well that like the but in the past things like NTV, which had the 230, which did matter, right? It seems like there's a few more that are going to the 230, but I'm not saying it's power creep per se, but it's changing the numbers slightly. You need to knock out some. 220 is good for some things, but then you have the 230s are maybe more of a consideration. It could
Maybe yeah. I mean,
depend.
you always want to hit as much as you can. So
Yes. So anyway, 2 attacks here. Arm press, lightning, lightning, colorless. Does 160, very straight ahead tack. And 160, of course, is disappointing, right? We have 220 on like Miraidon EX for the same energy cost. But then amp you very much with a very punny or jokey name for the attack, which kind of makes you almost think like it's a joke attack, but it's very serious. 4 energy, that's the downside. Lightning in 3 colors does 120, but then if your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out by damage from this attack, take 1 more prize. And I've heard people express anxiety about this card, that this is going to oppress the meta in a similar fashion to the way ADP did. And ADP, you were a big ADP fan, so
ADP was hype.
and there were those that
I
liked
don't know
it.
if that's true. No, ADP was it was definitely bad for the meta. I
Hmm.
will say I played against a number of people playing Iron Hands. Iron Hands is good, but it's not gonna break the meta. I was playing Lost Zone,
Hmm. So they
with
could one
almost
shot
all.
you,
Yeah, they could like one shot everything for 2 prizes. Um,
right?
and I was in it. I was like, and I so I okay. So there are a few different ways to play it.
Hmm.
There are a lot of actually different ways to play it. The one obvious way is with Miraidon. It's not that good in Miraidon because it's 4 energy and that's just a lot. And Miraidon's energy acceleration is okay, but
Yeah,
it, it,
electric
it barely
generator's
gets
tough.
to 3.
Or
Um,
well, I mean, if you have flaffies, right? But then you're not getting it set up as quickly. And even with
yeah,
flaffies, you
and
usually have 2 flaffies, so not 3. So sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
and it's hard to honestly get 2 flaffies. So
Yes.
it's awkward. It's not impossible. I'd probably still play one in Miraidon deck, but it's not great. But then you can. The biggest thing I've heard, and I played against this, was people put it in Chin Pao. So this
Right.
is really interesting. I heard some people talk about it. I was talking with some people. Um, and so obviously it lets you take an extra prize. The energy cost is weird. It's definitely payable,
Hmm.
especially now you can access the energy out of your deck with the Earthen Vessel, which is the one that searches for 2 energies. And so you can play a few big types of basic lightning. You can grab them out of the deck or the discard, using superior energy retrieval, or regular energy retrieval. I think is sometimes worth running in Jin Pao. But
Yeah.
yeah, so you do this, you'd have access to that. You'd manually attach to lightning, and you just accelerate all the water. So
Hmm.
it's not really that much of a downside. But
Right.
then the question is, how good is it? So
Hmm.
before I tell you about it, I want you to tell me what are your thoughts on Iron Hands and Chin Pao just based on hearing it.
Right. I mean, now the comparisons to the ADP. And look, the bad thing with ADP and people is ADP, as I understand it, up in general, it ran 50% against most decks it played against, which means it shouldn't have been oppressive, but it meant that a lot of decks just couldn't be in the game, right? And that which is bad. I like options, right? So if Iron Hands does that, it's bad. Taking extra prizes, of course, is huge. Um, I tried an extra prize deck recently, and I had to cut the card. So extra prizes isn't always good. That was in my Clefable.
What was the?
That was
Oh,
Clefable.
okay,
With the
yeah.
Clefable for 151 on a single prize,
Which is 50.
it does 50, and the 50 is not a good number to hit, I'll just say. That shouldn't be a
Yeah, it's
shock.
kind of bad.
You kind of needed the tool to hit 60. If you hit 60, it actually would be okay, right? Because then there are a number of basics that evolve that you can take out. But
Yeah, I guess.
at
Anyway,
time. But anyway,
so
that's beside the point.
this hits
So
more.
it can go into more, but 120 obviously it's one-shotting single prizes only. No, wait, the future tool that gives free retreat. Is that correct?
It also gives 20 more damage,
So
which is the
20,
140, which is it's okay, but it doesn't really help you hit any more damage numbers
right?
for one-shotting. Two-shotting is fine, but if you're two-shotting for an extra prize,
That's
it's
not
probably
generally
better
good.
just to one. It's not like oppressive in that
No,
sense.
for 4 energy. So it's a matter now. You can boost it with the Regieleki VMAX, right? It's a basic attacker.
Yeah, you can do that.
So I mean that's you're getting a lot of pieces, and that's getting very high roll probably. Um, I think it's a matter of teching into decks, honestly. I mean, yes, I probably would toss a copy in a Lightning deck, have it as an
Yeah.
option. A Chen Pao, I think, putting it in again, you can either have Lightning or you can have Luminous to cover it. Even Charizard, which has the energy acceleration, right? You can accelerate the fire to it. So having one copy, you have to have an energy or two to work with it, but it's not a crazy notion. I don't think it's an impossible notion. So it's more of a tech card, kind of the way, partly the way Goldengo could be too, right? It's one energy plus colorless, so it gives you. And maybe you start to have these box decks too. That could box decks are fun too, and maybe that's an option out
Yeah.
there. But this is the energy. This is an energy hog, so that makes it very tough. So I think, what I'll say is, Lost Zone's the deck that probably would hate this the most, and if you weren't too bothered by it, that's a sign that it's really not going to be all that good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't like Lost Zone as well. The issue is obviously that it does stop single prize decks, but those decks aren't that good right now. I guess you are if you are looking at say like Zoroark, which will be rotating quite soon,
Well,
unfortunately.
mhm,
But some of those Pokemon are out of range of 120. Some of them are like within range of 140, and the
right.
damage counts vary. But even then, they're one-shotting you, so you're trading evenly. Um, and you're not necessarily free to set up either. So yeah, I feel like before I get into the specifics of the Chin Pao, Iron
Hmm.
Hands and Chin Pao, I think people are if they're saying it's gonna like break the game, that they're wrong.
Hmm. Yeah, let me
It's
just.
very beatable.
So the concern for it with the health of the game is with stage twos have become a little more viable, right? Which is a good thing. It gives more options, and partly because even might be multi-prize stage twos with the EX, where it's a single prize that evolves to a multi-prize. So is it going to shut down the evolution EXs? I guess that's the question, right? Because if you're taking two prizes off the Pokemon that they're going to evolve into later on, that becomes a problem.
Yeah. So I feel like and I don't think it's that big of a deal because
Hmm.
that's still the same thing as if you were one-shotting the stage two, right? Which is something you could
Yes.
do with like so if you're comparing this to Chien Pao,
Hmm.
Chien Pao one-shotting the stage two versus Iron Hands one-shotting the basic for the same number of prizes.
Yeah.
It doesn't really. It's not like it's breaking the game or anything.
No.
Um, so the one thing I heard though was it obviously punishes weaker Pokemon.
Yes.
Um, so in the Chien Pao deck, someone said that it's kind of like so you know that thing like reading Ninja can take multiple prizes, right?
Yes.
So you but offer like two little Pokemon, allowing you to close out games by taking two prizes.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and just certain scenarios. But Iron Hands kind of does that same thing,
Hmm.
except your opponent can stop reading Ninja with Mana Feast. Then you need to get cross switch and canceling clone, which you could do, but it was awkward.
Right.
But then yeah, now you have Iron Hands to kind of cover that. Except now you're also you're not punishing. You can't do this in the early state to uh, punish them as much because you're not
Hmm.
actually damaging their engine as much. So I think
Yeah.
it's only okay. It's getting a lot of talk.
Hmm.
Iron Hands is only okay though. I think if people are saying it's insane, they're overreacting.
Yeah, look, I mean, time will tell. I think, yeah, it's not going to break the game. And maybe it is a closer Pokemon too, and maybe we're getting some more closers in the game, which is which would be good, right? Like Roaring Moon, which is obviously a terrific closer, not as good early necessarily. Maybe Iron Hands is a closer. You're probably in a better position then to get the energies on board too, either slowly building up or getting some acceleration set up. So yeah, I don't think it's the end all and be all. I will say I'm glad it's not one of the free decks because if it ends up breaking the format, giving this to everyone would not be enjoyable.
Yeah, I don't know. I get that. I feel like people are still gonna play it though, and they're just gonna be like, it's not gonna stop people from playing it. It'll
That's
stop
true.
some people though, and it'll just be a pain in their sides, because now they don't have access to it as much. But then you still have the people who just spend tons of money. Honestly, you
Yeah,
don't. The lives economy is very workable anyway.
it
But
is.
yeah, I guess I get the idea that you don't want everyone running around with it. But then also, I think another card we should look at. Is there another specific card you want to
Oh
look at,
well,
or,
well,
or not?
don't. Oh, well, we just you have Iron Valiant, and then we talked about the previous card, right? The
Iron Jugulus, Iron Bundle. What?
yeah, the one that pings, right? The
Valiant
Iron
EX.
Valiant, right? So is that a
Yeah.
way to pair too, right? Because you need to get
With
damage on
Iron
with
Hands.
yeah, it's more piece. It's a lot of pieces, but if you can get those knockouts, those numbers, right? That's part of the manipulation you're looking for too.
Yeah, that is a thing.
And I guess actually expanded this might be a little crazy. So that's something. Just I know we're not
Um,
focusing on that, but
yeah, I think that could be good. Um, I don't think
so
it's broken in I mean, expanded. I think it might be very good in live expanded because live expanded isn't as like stupid of a format. Well,
right.
actually, that it's
Well,
stupid
it's
for other
very
reasons.
yeah.
Um, but it's
Expanded gives you
not
more
like
energy acceleration, and that's the big problem. And which is the all right. It's good they made it for energy, right? I'm
yeah.
glad for that.
I think it's fine. I'm not too worried about it.
Okay, good.
I think now that we're talking about overhyped cards, I'm gonna talk about the other overhyped card, in my opinion, that's
Mm-hmm.
more overhyped than Iron Hands. Iron Hands isn't bad, but that's Jirachi.
Mm-hmm.
The one this account is Sableye. Um, it says prevent its ability. It's Stellar Veil, kind of like Wave Veil. Prevent all damage counters being placed on your bench by effective attacks used by your opponent's basic Pokemon,
Right.
which essentially just counters Sableye. It also can counter Medicham V.
Well, and
Um,
there's a new Pokemon coming out
sometimes.
too, right? Which similar to
Uh,
Dragapult
Oh
VMAX.
yeah, Cofagrigus
Yeah, which
EX,
I'd like to talk
which
about
is not
before we're
on
done.
the on the Justin Weasel's translations. Uh or on the proxies. Yeah. So
Okay.
it counters that as wait, no, but that's not a basic, so it doesn't counter that.
Oh, is it just base? Oh, it's just
Yeah.
basics. So you played. So you were the dumb guy in the room that went in with Lost Zone deck when the new set came out that was built to counter Lost Zone. That
Well,
was you. I'm just
no one
saying, right?
played
Everyone's
Jirachi.
saying Jirachi's printed, Lost Zone's dead, Iron Hands is here. It's going to wipe out Lost Zone, and you said don't worry about it, and you went ahead
And
with it.
I think I went like 6 for 7.
So that's a good sign. Obviously, it's
Yeah.
early days. People, the lists aren't maximized, and people are figuring out how to play these things. But so the Jirachi, look, Sableye is important, obviously, in the game.
Yeah, but Sableye's not
Go ahead.
by any means the only piece in the deck.
Hmm.
So Jirachi is good. Jirachi's okay. I think it's substantially worse than Manaphy. And Manaphy's good,
But Manaphy is
but
more helpful in more situations.
yeah, and it's even I'd say more. It's arguably more helpful in the Lost Zone matchup, because I mean Radiant Greninja does more damage.
Right.
So I'd be Jirachi. I wouldn't play in decks, unless I wouldn't really play it in deck, especially now because Iron Hands creates some of the same annoyances that Sableye does for single prize decks.
Hmm.
And obviously, Josh doesn't do anything against Iron Hands, so I don't think it's particularly good. I don't think it's garbage, but I don't think it's that good.
Yeah. What? Oh, the big negative to me is because it's a to go up against Lost Zone, but you really need, as you said, the Manaphy down and the Jirachi down. And generally,
Yeah.
you don't want to give up two deck spaces. There's not many. There's some decks that can leave to give up 2 spaces, but most
You mean
decks
bench spaces or
bench spaces.
deck?
I'm sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
bench spaces. So that's a big negative to me. The one thing with the Jirachi, maybe in decks, is you play it in a deck with Manaphy. You'd get the Manaphy down early. You don't put the Jirachi on the bench till later when it matters, right? Because they're not going to get 10 in the loss zone usually for a few turns. So perhaps you have it and you got to be smart and wait on it. But I think it's iffy, and it's not the I don't think it is the death of the loss zone
Yeah, especially
decks.
because they can just boss up one of them, or even rope, right? Like if they rope,
Yeah.
um, you're just going to be sitting there like, well, I can't give up the Manaphy or the Jirachi, and I don't really want to give up whatever else I have. So it's not good. And then because they obviously play rope, and then
Yeah.
you probably end up losing Jirachi or Manaphy. And once you lose one of them, they'll snipe the other one, and they'll go back in with the thing they could have gone in with before.
Hmm.
And now you're just kind of you slowed them down a tiny bit, but only a tiny bit.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to have a big impact in general. I think at high level IRL competitions, it will impact loss zone because it's a matter of being very careful with the Jirachi play and all. And
Maybe I don't think it's, but I don't know. I don't think it's. What do you mean? It's like being careful.
you got to not bench it till the right time. You have to keep your access to it either for something like a Clara to pull it out of the discard pile, or just to keep the cards to draw and know that you just know in your mind at the next turn or 2 more turns now, I got to play the Jirachi and stuff. Um, and most people aren't that careful, right?
I feel like I feel like that's kind of risky though, because you're not always going to have access to it, and then I mean, it's still like taking up. You still need to save that bench spot. You can't like fill that bench spot. So even if it's not in play, it's still kind of like taking that bench spot. So I feel like you can maybe wait like one more turn, but
Mm-hmm. It,
even then it's like super sketchy.
yeah.
Um, because if you fill it up, your opponent can, like if you fill up your bench, your opponent can not KO your Pokemon and then stabilize your
Mm-hmm.
Manaphy, and then
Yeah.
you only have one bench spot open, and you still never like solve the problem.
Yeah. No. I mean, look. Yes. Yeah. I mean, look. I don't think it's the end of the world for Lost Zone. So, I'm more concerned about the iron hands becoming a problem than Jirachi being a big problem. I would say at the end of the day.
Yeah. Um, so, and are there any other cards you want to talk about specifically right now? I have a few more I could talk about.
I
Um,
have at least a trainer.
oh yeah,
I
there's a few trainers we have to
but
talk about.
at Pokemon, there's two just briefly. That there's the Kofaga, whatever the
Puff agree, guys.
yes, thank you. I Kaffa Grigus EX. I just want it's a stage one. It's like the Dragapult, right? It's Hollow Hands for 2 psychic. It does 110 damage. So it's doing well. Dragapult didn't do a ton of damage either. I
No,
did
it did, I believe, 130 and then
it,
50 to the bench. Does this do 50 to the bench as well?
you put 5 damage counters on your opponent's
Yeah.
bench Pokemon any
Okay.
way you'd like. So not to the active, but spreading damage, putting damage counters is obviously very good. Manaphy doesn't stop it. Um, and so I think Dragapult was dangerous. You like Dragapult a lot, so that's partly why I see you're
Yeah, I talk it up. I didn't play it that
you
much.
you talk the
Played it
talk,
some.
but you didn't walk the walk. And then it has the
Yeah, I mean, I
ability,
didn't play that much when it was really good.
but it also has this ability, right, that makes it very intriguing. And I would think this will appeal to you, and the ability appeals to me as well. Gold Coffin. If this Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, search your deck for a card and put it into your hand. So that's, searching for a card is good. And obviously at this point, you're not going to get hand disrupted because you were knocked out. They've attacked. So yes, you're going to have 2 prizes, but hopefully through its attack, you're making progress, and now you've set up your next turn. So,
Yeah, one thing I want to say, obviously, it's like Dragapult. Dragapult really liked later on, especially to make it good again. It really liked Path,
mhm.
and playing Path doesn't feel good with this deck.
Correct. You don't want a path.
Because you
Yes.
turn off your ability. So I don't know about that. Um, yeah, and then there's another Psychic Stage 1 though I want to talk because I'm assuming you don't have too much more to say about Kavagurgis.
No. No.
Um, is Pathra, which is down a few cards. I think, which is another Psychic Stage 1 with an ability. First of all, it's attack here for Glitter Eyes, 70, but 140 if you have Tulip in your discard pile. It's the
How do you
supporter we were
spell it,
talking
by
about.
the way?
ESPATHRA.
Oh, E. Okay.
Um, so
Okay. Thank you.
yeah, it does 140 essentially for 2 Psychic. But it has an ability called Stance, which is when you evolve it, when you like play it down to evolve it, you can be immune to damage and effects of attacks done to it next turn. And you can loop it with the supporter card, Professor Toru's Scenario, and then you can accelerate to it with a number of things. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to accelerate to it. One is Zadu, which we'll talk about, but it's invincible and you can loop it. Not for like you can loop it for a while, certainly.
Okay, well, this can tie into my next card. I have one last Pokemon I want to talk about, which actually this could be the solution to that one too. So, certainly the ability. This is the type of thing you've liked. It's invincible, right? This is why you're playing Thornton because it was the greatest thing ever. But
Yeah, it was good. It was good for one set, and then Lugia came out, and you didn't have to do a 10-card combo. Well, you actually kind of did, but like it was an easier combo, with more payoff.
right, you have to evolve. You need 2 energies. You need the Tulip in the discard, but you don't have to play it, and you only need 1 in the discard. It's not like it stacks or anything. So 140, you just have to get a Tulip in the discard. That's not too bad. So it's not bad. It's certainly interesting. It's a single prize attacker, which obviously the multi prizes get a lot of the attention. So it's intriguing, is what I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Is your next Pokemon Zadu, or is it not?
No, it's Golisopod.
Okay. Can we talk about Zadu first here?
Sure.
Okay, Zadu, its ability,
Wait, how do you spell that one?
XATU.
That's XA. Okay.
Yeah. So once in your turn, you can attach a basic Psychic from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon. If you do, draw 2 cards. So it's like Shadow Rider, but can be to non-Psychic Pokemon, including this new Terra Mewtwo EX, which is a new card. It's all right. I think it's a little overhyped. It's not particularly good, but it is a partner as well. There's like a Deoxys. There's a number of partners, but pretty much it's Shadow Rider, but it doesn't have to be to Psychics. It's a single prizer, and it can accelerate to Espathra. Or as Iron Valiant, you can accelerate to a number of things. Do you think this card will be good? Because obviously Shadow Rider kind of flopped, but Shadow Rider is different as an attacker. It's a little weak in its damage output as well.
Right. So it's Shadow Rider's ability, obviously not the attack, nowhere near it, but Shadow Rider was 3 prizes. This is a single prizer. So, it's an interesting question. How good would it be? Because obviously we have Gardevoir EX, which is tremendous psychic energy acceleration. And it's different, but it's not as good as that, I would say. It's interesting. I'm not sure. I don't know. It doesn't grab me as a deck idea, but that might just be my lack of imagination.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
you think it'll be good?
I think it could be. I think it inherently is a good card. I think Shadow Rider's ability was very good, but then if you try to play Shadow Rider later on, obviously you'd probably attack with Shadow Rider.
Yes.
But you don't hit quite enough, and then you can get like one-shotted, and then you give up 3 prize and you fall behind badly. So I think Zadu has potential. I'm not exactly sure in what, but I think inherently it is a strong card. You could pair it with Iron Valiant, which could be all right. You could pair it with the Espathra.
Right.
Kind of like those like toolbox style decks with stuff like Electric or Flaffy, which have been good at times. But and like you got Ride Box. You could have Zadu kind of like that. Although they're obviously not really like they're not the same, but they're similar ideas. So I think Zadu has potential, and there have been a lot of Psychic Pokemon or colorless Pokemon as well. So you could use this as colorless cards.
Right. The idea of making with box style decks is always appealing, and maybe we see the rise of Shadow Rider, right?
Yeah,
oh no, that rotated.
Like
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right,
I mean, I wouldn't really make sense to pair this with Shadow Rider.
No, probably
you'd
not.
Still attack with Shadow Rider, and you have the same ability.
Right. You need like 20 energies in hand to start your turn to make it work. So.
Yeah.
All right. So, we'll see. So Golisopod EX, I saw this one, and this one I want to make work, and because I love hit and run. Okay, and hit and run just.
I feel like you need to play. You haven't played that Hitmonlee deck though, right?
No.
It's hit and run
Well,
ability lock. It's right up your alley.
yeah. I mean, maybe. But what about
It's
this
hit and
one?
run ability lock spread. It's all this stuff.
It's all the things I love. I do like those things. So Gliscopod EX, stage one. And then it's a second attack for watercolors, colorless swing, and skedaddle. So that whoever was naming things was really on
Wait,
fire.
is that the official name?
Well, this is the translation, so maybe that's
Wait, are
wrong.
you on Justin? I have a different
I'm a Justin
translation.
Basil. What do you
I'm
have?
also on Justin Basil's, and it's translated
First what?
first rank withdrawal.
Well, that's a weird one too. Okay, I don't know. Swing and skedaddle's a little more memey. Yours sounds like an awkward translation to me, but I don't know what it.
Yeah, we've certainly seen awkward translations though. Some of which are funny.
Yeah, so I don't know what it'll be. Yours is from the proxy page, I guess.
Yeah, I mentioned the proxy page.
Okay, so 170 damage. The attack, I assume, is correct. So that's an okay. Well, no, it's not a great number. Let's
For
be
hit and
fair.
run, that's a good number.
Correct. Hit and run.
That's like a very reasonable number.
So yeah, it's better than a lot of hit and runners. And you discard an energy. If you do, and you don't have a choice but discard an energy, I think, right? So I don't know why they phrase things like this. Discard an energy for this Pokemon. If you
Yeah.
do switch one, they have other cards like that. I never
I
understand
think
it.
you could like copy it somehow, or you could have some weird scenario where maybe your energy gets discarded first, like if you hit into
Oh,
some Pokemon with some tool, maybe.
like
I don't really
it would have to be
know.
like Pokemon that has like multiple tools. It can have like 4 tools, and then it
Yeah,
discards all your energy. All right. So anyway, if
yeah,
you discard an energy and then you switch with one of your bench Pokemon, so it doesn't go out of play. It goes to your benches, down 1 energy, which means if you have the ability to promote it again next turn, you can obviously just manually attach one. So now I was trying to figure out to pair it. Now you've just told me the Pokemon that's immune, right? Which is always very nice to swing into.
yeah. I realize I have a ruling question now
Uh
as well after this.
oh. Okay.
Should I ask that? Yeah, I'll ask that question now actually.
Okay.
And that is, yeah, the Iron Valiant EX. This is once in your turn, when this Pokemon moves from the bench to the active, you put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. So is
Mhm.
this during your turn? So like, when you send Gliscopod to the, it's like because you can send up the Iron Valiant, right?
Oh, Iron Valiant. Is that during your turn if you sent up?
Yeah, and I think it is.
I think your turn's after, but that's an interesting question.
It's kind of weird. So I mean, it's not that good.
You're putting 2 damage counters. I mean, you're doing what,
Yeah.
170, so it gets you to 190, which there are some 180
Yeah.
Pokemon out there, but
Yeah, the issue is you're sending up a Pokemon with less HP, which is kind
right.
of like that gives them the same number of prizes, which is kind of like the opposite idea of hit and run. Normally, you want to send up like say, no, like Mimikyu or some like wall.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So you probably don't send that one up, but it's an interesting question, and someone will ask that question, I'm sure. My thought initially is no, though. That's not part of your turn, right? Is it a? I don't know. It's a good question. Because when you attack,
Yeah.
your turn ends, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is part of your turn. I think it's during like the attack.
I mean,
But it doesn't matter too much. I don't think it's that good.
no. So I like the switch. I like the hit and run aspect. So I think maybe something can be done with the Gliscopod EX, though. Is what I'll say.
Maybe. Hit and run has not been good for a while. We've seen like some
Yeah.
hit and run things, but nothing like that good for a long time.
No, I agree. I mean, even
Um,
when Galarian Wheezing that gave ability lock, hit and run was sketchy with that even, right? And that was a great Pokemon to swing into.
Yeah, I think they remember there's a hit and run deck where you'd like item lock your opponent and like ability
Mhm.
lock them.
Yeah.
But it was like so awkward. Like they've made some with really high upsides. They're just like so impossible to pull off. Also, you have to kind of compare this, I feel like, to the Alakazam EX, which attacks from the bench, hits less,
Right.
but you don't need to like switch every turn. So
Right. Now you could pair it with those, right? That was with the Spiritomb and the
no, not
no, not that, but
Like,
the lock
Mimikyu.
ones, Mimikyu and the one
Oh, and
that
Klefki.
and Klefki, yeah. Those, sorry. So so I don't know. This is a Pokemon I'm going to try to make something happen with, but you don't want to talk about this anymore. Are we done with
I don't
Pokemon
think
now?
it's that good.
Or if they
Yeah.
have something else,
Oh,
that's
there is
fine.
one. There's a few more. There's Let's see, how much time do we have left?
We
No,
should.
yeah, let's be done with Pokemon.
Okay. I mean, there's a couple I don't have a lot of trainers.
I have a few that we have to talk about.
Okay. That's fine. So, Bombardier EX is interesting too. Just take a look at that at your own.
That
It
one's hit and run, and
no,
it's set up.
well, it is. It is. You can attack.
It's
It's
not
an
like
attack. You can. It's a Pokemon you can attack with going first turn one. So that's always a good
yeah,
thing.
that's
I like those. I
fine.
like those cards too. They're not as
I feel like I
good.
don't like him though because turn one going first. You want to go first anyways. I have some cards that you want
Yeah.
to use going second though,
Uh,
which I think are
Okay. So
interesting.
let's get to the trainers then, right? This is. I assume you don't have any special energies.
No,
It's only one
there's
in the
like
set, right?
yeah, it's all right. It's like potion.
Yeah, but there's
It's
some very
okay.
good trainers,
Yeah.
right?
So we talked about Earthen Vessel. We talked about which one do you want to talk about?
Well, counter catcher we have to talk about.
Yeah.
Should we do that then?
Yeah. So County Catcher, is this the only one you have to talk about?
I have at least one other, but
Okay. Let's see. Counter Catcher though. If you're down, pretty much anything that's like counter or like defiance or
mhm,
something. It's if you're down, you can do something. In this case, just it's an item gust.
yeah,
So it's like old school Pokemon count. No, what old school Pokemon catcher. But Counter
yes,
Catcher is a reprint as well, so it's
right,
really nice. Especially for me, a control player, it's going to be
hmm
very good. Um,
yes,
yeah. So I've not messed around with that too much, but I think it'll be very good. And I'm looking forward to that. Someone also commented on my video that I need to do the Tatsugira control deck. I will. I have not built that yet, but there's
okay.
a setup Pokemon, so there's some cool things there.
hmm Look, I like counter catcher, and this is an actual reprint of an older card, right? So if you have the older copies, I think the text is probably even the same, but you can certainly play those. I am concerned because Snorlax Stall is a decent deck right now, and I play Snorlax Stall. I don't hate Stall, but I don't want to see Stall half the decks on the ladder, right? I don't think anybody does. And
Yeah.
this really, really, really helps Snorlax Stall a lot, I think. I think Snorlax Stall
Um,
could really be too good.
I think it
I'm
helps
I'm
it.
more concerned about that than Iron Hands, honestly. This is because I really do think Snorlax Stall could become a top five deck with this.
I feel like a lot of decks don't have too many Pokemon though that they can't attack with. So you need to look at like
hmm
the classic example is like Gardevoir, right? So Gardevoir obviously they can attack with all the things in the Gardevoir line,
Right.
um, which are just like a bunch of Gardevoirs and Gallades, and then they can obviously attack with Cresselia.
hmm
Um, but then you look at Radiant Greninja, Manaphy, Lumineon. They probably play some combination of those, and they can't attack with any of them, and they can't
hmm
switch them out really at all.
Right.
So their idea is to not play them, but you
Right.
could hit them off of both Erica's Invitation slash
hmm
Manaphy. Erica's Invitation is probably better. Or you could hit it with Equine Corn if they discard it.
Right.
But then you also look at Mew, Baby Mew, as well as Pokemon like that,
hmm
which do can attack only for 30. And 30 is not enough to break through. Well, I guess Defiance Fest. Defiance Fest is a new card which reduces damage by 40. Um, and so
so it's doing nothing then, yeah.
yeah. So the yeah, normally you'd play Pot Helmet, which reduces by 30 as well, which is enough. But
hmm
Defiance Fest is an upgrade um when you're down, which is most of the game.
Right. So look, I'm glad counter catcher's out. I'm a little concerned because Snorlax Stall is a thing. It's very easy to play. Like it's not hard to play against, like you said. Just don't bench the dumb Pokemon. But you can get those cards into play with the attacks. There's more ways. Eventually, you can get cards into play at this point because if you can get it from the discard or their hand, eventually the Pokemon are gonna end up in one of those two spots, and you can fall behind the
Yeah,
prizes
the idea is that you want to fill your bench up.
with
But
with,
that's a
with the
little
cards you want.
awkward.
Even if you fill your whole bench up with attackers, if I keep switching every turn, even a Gardevoir deck can't get enough energy on every Pokemon to attack with every Pokemon.
That is true, but you want to keep in mind that you're not gusting every turn,
No, but if
even
I
with the
have
counter
four
catcher.
counter catchers, which is much better, assuming you get behind, than the one you play two of, which I'm blanking on.
Cross switcher.
Cross switcher, right? It's better than that if
Yeah,
you're
but I think you're
behind.
still not hitting it
So
every
I don't know.
turn.
Look, I'm a little concerned. And the other thing, just to keep in mind, if you play Pokestop, there are Pokestop decks out there. This goes in that at least one copy, even if you're not going to be behind a lot. because it's very good. And there are Pokestop decks as well as there's the Chen Pao Blastoise Pokestop deck that's pretty good that I played recently. And that plays for cross switchers. Maybe just I don't know if you drop the cross switchers just for this or something, but you know,
Blastoise, not Excalibur.
Chen Pao
Okay.
Excalibur. My apologies. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And
All right,
then what was
so
the other card you had?
Mela.
Okay.
Just is it
I
any
think the card's
good?
bad.
Okay,
I
just
think
this
it's
is
not.
briefly.
We talked about it before, and we determined it wasn't good.
So it only works
Okay.
for fire. If you had a fire deck, is it better than Raihan? You think it's worse than Raihan even? Right? You
I
draw
don't know.
till
I think
6
it's
cards in hand.
yeah.
So maybe you put a copy in a fire deck
Yeah, I don't despise it. I just don't
or
think fire is that
Charizard
good.
EX deck, which obviously there's a lot of.
Yeah, but Charizard EX, I'd rather play Raihan and Charizard EX.
Okay.
Because this kind of you want to be able to search out exactly what you want. And you have cards to do that. But your deck's kind of designed in that way.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we need to talk about if you saw my top 10 trainers, 6 of them were tools.
Oh wait, just before you do that, Snorlax Doll, it's garbage. Is that correct?
It's not garbage.
I love Lou's
there's,
Pokédoll, but
it allows you to control your mulligans.
A little bit,
which is
yes.
kind of good. So my idea is if you play 4 Snorlax Doll, 4 Luxray, you can control mulligans decently well. That's just my idea though. I don't know if it's any good. It's probably not. I think it's complicated, but I don't think it's an unplayable card.
Right. I mean,
it's interesting. You can give it 220 HP with Gorgeous Mantle, which is good.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the fact it has to be in your starting hand. It can't even be played turn 1 like a Battle VIP Pass turn 1 play. It has to be your starter, right? That makes it pretty.
Yeah. Oh, it doesn't need to be your starter. It needs to be in your starting hand.
Oh, you can put it on. You can put it on the bench too. I apologize. Yeah, it has to be.
Versus like Luxray, you have to put as the active.
Okay. All right. Okay. So anyway, get to the tools. Sorry, I distracted.
So the tools, the TMs, we got 4 of them. Blindside is not good. It's a spread attack. It's not garbage, but it's not great. But you got 3 other ones, which are so the way the TMs work. Their tools can be attached to any Pokemon. They can use that attack, and then after that turn, it's discarded. So you can only use it once. But they're all good. These 3 they're all decent at least, and they're all 1 colorless.
Yeah, that's
so
important.
I'll read the 3. Yeah, real quick. Devolution, devolve all of your opponent's Pokemon by putting the highest stage evolution into their hand. Next one, evolution. Choose 2 of your bench Pokemon for each of those. Search for an evolution, put it onto them. It cannot be your active. And then Turbo Energize. Search for up to 2 basic energy and attach them to your bench Pokemon in any way you like. Then shuffle your deck.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts on these?
Well, don't forget that Pokemon, which I've forgotten the name of already, that's immune the turn you evolve it. You put this on that, boom, you attack, it doesn't get knocked out. Anyway, right?
Wait, what?
There's the one which evolves, right? Isn't the turn it evolves?
The Espathra, but
you could use the tool on that Pokemon. I'm just saying, right?
Which tool?
Any of these tools. But the Pokemon's immune the turn it evolves. You could evolve that Pokemon this turn. That turn.
I think Espathra only works when you play it from your hand.
No,
you're saying you just
make
evolve
that's
and
the
then you
active.
attack.
That's your attacker.
Oh yeah,
but
you can use it with Mimikyu V as well. Mimikyu V is also invincible at the turn you play, and it's a basic.
Yeah, it's yeah. Okay, so
I'd probably rather use like something else. Like you could use Baby Mimikyu as well.
Yes.
I get what you're saying. I would not use Espathra.
Okay, so devolving every. I thought only devolved the active. So devolving every Pokemon. So it's gonna force these rare candy decks to play more stage 1s because right now Charizard, Pidgeot deck,
1.
or sometimes none. Right?
Yeah,
maybe one
usually
at most.
1.
And none for the Pidgeot line. So you devolve everything. They've kind of lost the game. And obviously Excalibur. So people are going to have to put more stage 1s in. So it's going to hurt evolution decks, I think, because you're going to have to be prepared for this.
I guess. I think my idea is like you devolve these stage 2s into stage 1s or basics that have 100 or less HP. So you like spread a bunch of damage around.
If you've already done the attacks, then you finish. Then they get knocked out when you devolve.
Yes, this will allow you to KO a Charizard EX in a deck that can't hit 300 damage, in a deck that only hits like 100 damage. It will take 2 turns, and you only take 1 prize, but you do hopefully 100 to a few of their Pokemon, then devolve them, and then you're good to go.
It's a lot of work though. You have to set up the spread, and setting up spread's not super easy, right? I'm a little
Uh,
concerned about that.
yeah, I think it's easier than like three-shotting a Charizard EX. Um,
But you
Now
can,
you're two-shot.
but I,
Like you set up three Charizards with three attacks, then you
mhm.
devolve all of them with the fourth attack. So you take three prizes across 4 turns as opposed to like six
uh,
prizes across 9
by the
turns.
time you've taken any turns, you've lost to Charizard.
Well, no, it's only 4 turns. Well, but you're a single prize deck. I think it's well, but then the
Maybe.
idea is you can make things up in
Look, you might be
actually no,
right.
it's probably gonna be less. It's probably gonna be like 2 turns to take two prizes. And you are carrying all their Pokemon, so they have no more like they're not doing anything the next turn either.
You might be right. I also though think this is a tech you could put in a lot of decks. You can splash one of in any deck you want. It's one colorless, and there are a bunch of decks that are really going to be unhappy to see it. So that I think it will
Yeah,
get that used to.
yeah.
Um, bench Pokemon, you evolve to bench Pokemon. I don't love it. I mean, it's your attack for a turn, right? I gotta say. So it's a setup. I'm not thrilled about that one. I gotta
I
say.
think it's okay. Turn one going second. Same thing with the Energy Acceleration one. They're both decent. Turn one going second. I was playing against the Goldengo player. I was playing
Hmm.
against played not no not the energy the evolution one.
Yes.
But then obviously you go second, but then you give your opponent your Goldengos to KO. So
Hmm.
now and a lot of decks can KO turn one or no turn two going first can one shot anything.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh,
and so
and
they're gonna KO your Goldengos. But I think it has use.
it does.
And
And I
then kind of
know
counters the devolution one.
what's
So you don't
that?
need to play as yeah, it counters the devolution one, and you don't need to play as many rare
Right.
candies.
Well, but it doesn't count. But you still right. You have to play the stage ones though instead of the rare candies,
Yeah, so it's you're taking up more spots.
or the
Yeah, you're
same.
taking up
It's a matter of consistency. Which way is better?
um,
It gives you
yeah.
flexibility. I don't. The deck I now see it in is Mew, and Mew needs more pieces. So you go second, Mew, boom, because I think DTE Mew is actually pretty good and is going to stay
I
good.
think it's all right.
And this is a nice setup for that. This is might be the optimal end of your first turn going second Mew. I,
That could be.
so anyway,
Um,
we don't want to
and
talk. You don't want to think about Mew, do you?
no, not really. I think it's okay.
And then this,
I'm not a big Mew fan. I think that I think versatile decks are better than not versatile decks, but they're also
yeah.
hard to play.
Mm-hmm.
So because I'm so good, I just don't play Mew. No,
Yeah.
I think it's Mew can Mew's like a decently straightforward deck.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously this gives you a bit more. Well, actually, it doesn't really give you flexibility. It just gives you power, but I don't
Yeah.
think
Oh,
it's
and it's not an item card. That actually makes it less good of Mew, right? You always want
well.
cards you
That's
can chuck with
interesting
Cram-O-Matic.
because you can search with Arven though. So I think these make Arven better. I think
Oh yeah,
Arven is going to
Arvin's.
become very good in this new set because
Yes.
previously the tool aspect was the weaker aspect of the
Mm-hmm.
two, except for when you could grab Forest Sealstone.
Right. And the ancient and
And
future
infuse
tools are
them.
good too.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good tools from the set, and I think Arven's going to be very good.
Future Flash is okay. You can manually evolve that same. Well, I guess no. You can. Yeah, you can evolve it the turn you played it down with this, but you're using up your attack, so it's
Wait, what?
situate
What Future Flash?
Future Flash, right? You can evolve the turn. It can be the turn you played the card Pokemon down, right? You can play the basic and then you attack and evolve it to the stage one that very turn, correct?
Which the TM?
Yeah, the TM evolution. Yeah,
Yeah.
with
Wait, why do you say Future Flash?
I don't know, because I said it
Okay, that's
wrong.
the name of the set. That's the name of the Japanese
Oh,
set,
from
which
Future
is
Flash. Oh, I see.
yeah.
Future Flash
Okay.
versus that's what I got confused about. Okay, so
That's I was like, where do you get that from?
you can
Okay.
evolve at the
Yes.
turn, so it has
Yeah.
some value.
Yeah. But then you'd be ending your turn, so normally you could just evolve it next turn and be fine.
Right. But unless you're evolving a Pidgeot, you probably can't evolve two Pokemon with rare candies the next turn. So it's better for stage two decks, I think, which you are getting at before, probably. Or you
Yeah,
know,
it's all right. It allows for um some more options or some more consistency or some
hmm
different things, which could be all right.
and obviously accelerating energy with the Turbo Energize is good. You accelerate what, two energies to what,
Yeah.
one
Oh
of your
wait, sorry.
benched?
So for the evolution one, that's gonna be good in guard for. I realize that'll be
Hmm.
the deck it's best in because you have like the stage ones and the stage twos and the basics.
Yeah, that's yeah. So you get two Curlias up at that, right? Because you're not doing anything a meaningful attack turn one anyway. You might end with the Zacian V's ability, or you use this attack.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this Turbo Energize is fine. Accelerate two energy to one Pokemon, right? Or no, to any way you'd like. So they can go to one or to two. It's good. It's using up your attack, so it'll have some use. It's not the greatest thing since
Yeah,
Slice
I don't think
Proto.
it feels. I think it works decently for most decks. Turn
Hmm.
one going second. Um,
Yeah.
it's kind of like Arceus V's attack. It's not as strong, but it's only one energy, so I
Hmm.
think it's usable and allows you to get a bit more
Yep. Okay.
like oomph and stuff.
Yep. Okay. So the de-evolution is or de-evolution's the strongest of those four, I think.
What I think.
I personally.
I don't know. I think it's weaker than the evolution and the turbo energize.
Well, okay. I mean, it
I
depends.
think
It depends how you see them.
it can do like big things.
Hmm.
Um, but it's not as like you're not gonna use it every game.
No, I think it's more
It's very
universal. The
different.
others are more are niche, right?
Um, well, you can play it in any deck, but it's a counter. So,
Exactly. It's
it's
a
kind of like how
counter.
Manaphy is
That's
like more universal, but it's not necessarily like good in every game that you play. It's only good in maybe like 20% of the matches you play it in. Although
yes.
This one might be useful in more. We'll see.
Right, depending on the meta, obviously. So, yeah, okay. But look,
Uh,
they're good tools. Arbin becomes important for sure. Any other trainers you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I think the conclusion we've come to is that the meta is not like ruined, but
No.
there's some very good cards.
Yeah, there's gonna be new decks, new options, and don't forget Luminous Cape. Everybody's got to play for those. Right, that's a bizarre one.
Yeah,
we're
it's
out of
called
time.
Gorgeous Mantle here,
Is
I
it?
think.
Okay, on the proxy. So, at giving up an extra prize is a very unusual thing for a card, but and it's going to add some options. It's going to add some decks as well as some options, tech and decks, and I think that's good for the game.
Yeah, Gorgeous Mantle or Luminous Cape. That's the ADP clone.
That's the
Because
hidden treasure here.
now all the single prizers give up multi prizes. It's ruining the game.
Every single prize player is going to have to attach luxurious cape to every Pokemon, and then they lose that much faster. Yes.
Yeah, this is Pokemon's ruining the game here.
So, anyway, it's a nice set. It's coming out soon, and yeah, and based on your experience, you can still play Lost Zone.
Yeah, you can still play Lost Zone. Lost Zone is even better. So hopefully that's good news for you all. It probably isn't, but stay tuned. I think I don't know if it's this week. It might be this week. It might be next week. We're going to be releasing a half episode. We might not. It's something we haven't actually recorded yet, but I think we're going to record that. And so stay tuned for that. It's a bit more of like a silly casual thing. Unlike the very professional episode we've just recorded for you.
Yes.
So yeah, subscribe, hit the bell. Check us out on
Spot.
podcasting platforms
Right.
like Spotify, or the YouTube channel as well.
Right.
Either of our YouTube channels are a great way to contact us.
Yep.
If you want to contact one of us in particular, comment on that person's channel. But yeah,
Yep.
and we're excited to see you next time.
All right. Take care.